Now we're going to go hear from Alabama radio host Del Jackson, my friend. Del has some thoughts on the ability to question Judge Jackson during these Supreme Court hearings. Apparently, he feels that it's okay to question conservatives, but somehow the Republicans have been held back from asking questions, or she's dodging answering them. Let's see what he has to say.
If the American media didn't have double standards, they would have no standards.
Ooh, we're gonna get an attack on the media. This is some fresh perspective from a right-wing commentator right here.
Welcome to today's Yellowhammer. Now we've got some cable news craziness with you, sticking with the Ketanji Brown Jackson hearings and how this is being handled by our friends in the media and their Democrats, and why in the world we're constantly seeing these things being handled very differently depending on who's sitting in the chair. It is very strange. First, let's take a look at The View, a show you
strange,
should
strange.
watch. But they'll make it clear that looking at Justice Amy Coney Barrett,
and he still sounds like shit with his nice padding in his echo chamber.
And after all, when you look at what's coming before the court, we should know her religious beliefs before she gets to rule on these things. But with Ketanji Brown Jackson asking her about her faith, well, that's just trolling, because we don't need to know what she believes because she already believes the right thing on the issue of abortion. This isn't my argument. This is the argument being made on The View. Roll.
There was questions about the organizations, the religious organizations, fundamental religious organizations that Amy Coney Barrett was involved with, that are influential in politics. That's the reason why it was an issue. I don't know what the issue is with Ketanji Brown Jackson's faith. I don't, other than an issue of politics when you're involved in political groups and these weird cults, these weird religious sects. I don't see what because the Constitution forbids religious tests, Dill.
Let me jump in here, because when Lindsey Graham was referencing the religion, you could tell it was rhetorical and he was trolling, because that's what had happened to Amy Coney Barrett. But the difference was it made sense for Amy Coney Barrett to be questioned on those things purely because one of the number one issues dividing this country is a woman's right to choose versus pro-life. And it's it's greatly and mostly based in a religious belief, and separating that belief out. So the fact that Amy Coney Barrett, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, is her whole life was enmeshed in religion. It was beyond just she goes to church on Sundays. She was on board. She was on pro-life board. So when they pressed her on religion, whereas Lindsey Graham had kind of couched it in, they're trolling all this personal information, it absolutely was necessary in the questioning of Amy Coney Barrett. Whereas when they did it to Ketanji Brown, they're trolling her. They're trying to make her out to be something. And what I saw this is they're not going to vote on anything they hear in this hearing. They're going to vote down party lines. She's going to go through, and she deserves to go through. Yeah. But this was about campaigning for presidency. This was
absolutely.
Grant, they're all trying to ride on her coattails already, whereas she's.
I mean, I'm still skeptical that she's going to make it out of the committee. That you can get Grassley to vote for her.
Of a woman, it speaks to how unassailable she is. That it's reached this absurd level.
I hate to break this to these people, but the issue of abortion, well, it does divide along religious lines. It still doesn't mean that just because you don't have any faith or weak faith or a faith that allows abortion on demand, it doesn't mean that we don't have a right to know exactly what you mean and why you make the decisions you do. I'm sorry, this isn't what this... I hate to break it to these people, but it is pretty clear to me that there's a...
I think he meant to cut there, and he didn't cut. Did a little thing with your editing there, Dill.
Religious bias taking place here. Just because Amy Coney Barrett has strong religious beliefs and another person doesn't have strong religious beliefs doesn't mean we shouldn't talk to them about those religious beliefs. Because if Amy Coney Barrett's religion impacts how she makes decisions, the lack of religion or the difference in religion could impact how another person makes a decision. So those questions to Ketanji Brown Jackson are completely legitimate, and this argument is silly. Speaking of silly, Gayle King, CBS. She looks at this case with Ketanji Brown Jackson and feels really bad.
Did what he just say make
Killing
sense?
is in the hearing room on Capitol Hill. Nicole, I watched a lot of the hearings yesterday. It was very painful to watch.
These are the same exact people that thought what happened to Brett Kavanaugh was fine, that he shouldn't have been appointed because of accusations from 40 years ago. Remember, the only thing Ketanji Brown Jackson was asked at this whole entire thing was about her record and her person. There were no allegations or accusations.
All she was asked about was her record and her person. Let's see if that is true, Del Jackson. Let's see if we can get a sampling of the questions that Ketanji Brown Jackson faced, a la Ted Cruz. Here is an example of the questioning he faced.
Senator, I do not believe that any child should be made to feel as though they are racist or though they are not valued or though they are less than, that they are victims, that they are.
He was only asked about a
oppressors.
record.
Believe in any of that.
Do you agree with this book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist?
You agree that babies are racist? Stupid ass fucking question. What else did Ted Cruz ask her?
That I was an Asian man? Would I have the ability to be an Asian man and challenge Harvard's discrimination because I made that decision?
Senator, I'm not able to answer your question. You're asking me about hypothetical.
Example, I'm an Hispanic man. Could I decide I was an Asian man? Would I have the ability to be an Asian man and challenge Harvard's discrimination because I made that decision?
How stupid! You want one more? You want another one from Senator Ted Cruz? This one posted by the RNC itself. The Republicans with the self-own yet again.
What a woman is. That you are not a biologist, which I think you're the only Supreme Court nominee in history who's been unable to answer the question, what is a woman? Let me ask you,
has that ever been asked at a Supreme Court confirmation hearing? I may be wrong. It may have been asked. But, I don't think so. You're the only person who has ever not answered what is a woman in these hearings. As if it's like a routine question that they ask all the time.
as a judge, how would you determine if a plaintiff had Article III standing to challenge a gender-based rule, regulation, policy, without being able to determine what a woman was?
So, Senator, I know that I'm a woman. I know that Senator Blackburn is a woman, and the woman who I admire most in the world is in the room today, my mother. It sounded as though the question was...
But let me ask, under the modern leftist sensibilities, if I decide right now that I'm a woman, then apparently I'm a woman. Does that mean that I would have Article III standing to challenge a gender-based restriction?
Senator, to the extent that you are asking me about who has the ability to bring lawsuits based on gender, those kinds of issues are working their way through the courts, and I'm not able to comment on them.
Yeah, there isn't legal precedent to point to. That's the type of questioning that the Republicans engaged in.
Her specific record, which is exactly what should happen at these hearings, not the nonstop
Her specific record.
slander paloozas that we've seen when Republicans like Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh
as if trying to make her out to be light on child pornographers isn't slander. Dell, oh my God.
Are up there. And remember, Brett Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas, they are still smeared with those same accusations to this day. They still claim that they've been credibly accused of sexual assault or sexual harassment when there is no evidence that those reports were ever credible. It again is a double standard, and it never.
But there is evidence. 2 women's testimony. We believe the women that testified as to what Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh did to them. They were indeed credible. Holy shit. Right-wingers are absolute morons. Dumbest fucks walking the planet. Speaking of morons, here is conservative Momma, who has been keeping up with the Supreme Court hearings, and she had this to say.
So today was a rough day. I've been watching the Supreme Court Justice confirmation hearings of Judge Jackson, and up until today, I thought that Ringo,
Cute dog.
I thought he was a dog. But I'm not a veterinarian. So, I mean, I really can't say. I can't say what it is. I can't say what it is. So I don't know.
Well, ma'am, let's say there was a debate about whether your dog Ringo there was a dog or maybe he was a coyote or a wolf. They are in the same, is it phylum? Is that the classification, the biological classification? If there is debate over whether your dog might just be a domesticated wolf or a coyote, who are you going to consult to see which one they are? Go to a veterinarian, right? A genus. You would go to a veterinarian, or you go to a zoologist, somebody like that is knowledgeable on the subject now, wouldn't you? So if you have a case where you've got an intersex person, where you've got somebody that is somewhere in the gray area of sex expression and gender, then you would go to a biologist to determine that. Because that's what we're talking about here. Fucking judges aren't ruling on cases that are, like blatantly obvious and shit, right? You're ruling on cases that are decided in the margins, that you like there's questions at hand, which is why it has to come before a judge to be adjudicated, ma'am. And that's what she meant when she said these questions are working their way up through the court. Because as a Supreme Court justice, it would be her job to rule on whether interpretations of the law passed by states, the federal government, are constitutional or not. So there would have to be a case, a challenge to one of these title laws, go before the courts, where the courts rule on the question of what a woman is. And it's probably going to be like multifaceted. There's going to be a test, much like they have, other tests for things on the court, fetal viability. And there will be like multi-prongs applied to it. And once that is a precedent, maybe somebody will have a case that challenges that already established law, and then the Supreme Court would look at it, because that's the way our system works. Though I think my stoned ass kind of trailed off there and didn't explain it very well.